Good evening. This is Ubuntu channel, and this evening we are actually on debate time. On debate time, we have actually 4 panelists, but right now in the studio or on set, we actually we have 2 of them, and 2 of them will join us as we proceed with the program. My name is Chaza right here, your host, and I am together with Lance on debate time. Lance, good evening. You are on mute, Lance.
Thank you. Good evening, Chaza, and also good evening to our viewers, as well as a lovely evening to the panelists.
Great. We are right here bringing the topic of the day. And tonight, the topic that we are looking at is high unemployment in Zambia. What is the way forward? And to help us have this discussion, we actually have Harry Wapatichongo, who is actually representing, the activists in terms of politics and, social setting. He's a political and social activist there. And not only him, we do also have, Mr. Omiya Hankanga, who is actually representing UPND. Harry, good evening and welcome to the program.
Good evening. Thank you so much.
Great. It's good to have you here. And not forgetting Mr. Omiya Hankanga. Good evening, sir. Mr. Hankanga.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. It's good to have you on the program. Without much ado, we shall get into the deliberations. Mr. Hankanga, you were saying something?
I don't know where I am, but I don't know if it's the location. I don't know. Network is really a bit challenging where I am.
Okay, but right now we are getting you loud and clear, and we hope it is going to be like that, throughout the program.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And without much ado, we're getting straight into the deliberations. Each of the panelists will first of all be given 8 minutes to actually, deliberate, as we tackle the topic of the day. And the question is actually alluding to what the way forward can be as regards unemployment in Zambia. So before we actually, even get to that, let us get to debate why and how have we seen ourselves to this, situation, high unemployment in Zambia. Why is it so? Why are we here? Let us start with you, Harry.
Okay, good evening once more. Thank you so much for being invited for this particular discussion where we are discussing issues of unemployment. Why are we here and what is the reason why? So first thing, we need to ask ourselves where we are coming from. Historically, as Zambia, our start post-independence, we know that most of the state enterprise or most of the means of production were being run by the state. And during that particular time, we used to see quite a number of people who were in formal employment. And in that period, we used to see that government was looking for people who can be employed, unlike the situation that we are having currently. What that meant in that particular period is that the state was in control of how it can allocate employment to its citizen, and it was in control of how it can make sure that every citizen has got access to employment. And the employment that they were having is an employment which was based on the fact that they need to have access, they need to have issues of social protection and all that. So moving forward to 1991, we saw the massive privatization of most of state-owned companies.
Looks like we have lost him to connectivity there. Maybe as we get to wait for him, we can quickly switch to Mr. Hankanga. Mr. Hankanga, are you there?
I'm here.
Please come through and get to tell us as to why we are actually finding ourselves in the position in which we are in terms of high employment in Zambia.
Thank you so much. And I think let me just try to continue where Henry actually left from. You know, historically as a country, we have a history that has always believed in the Ubuntu theme. That is where us as Africans, we are able to actually fend for our own selves. And if you look at from 1964 to where we are, 2002 now, historically, Zambia's employment rates have always been low. Regardless of the privatization that took place between 1991 and 1996, the employment rates have always been low. One of the main reasons why our employment rates have been low is because we have not industrialized Zambia. If you look at certain places in Zambia, like other provinces, I'll talk, for instance, if we go to Western Province, where they are producing into issues to do with rice, there is no factory that is actually adding value into the rice production that is taking place in Western Province. You go to Northwestern Province, you will find a similar situation where, as the province where they're cultivating so much pineapples, they are not able to have a factory that can actually add value addition to the products that they're actually producing. So there has been this mindset where most of the young people have been led to do work which is aligned to government or quasi-government institutions. When they go to school from grade 1 to grade 12, what they currently thinking of is, where do I work? Which ministry do I work? Which police service, which defense system would I work? That has been a mindset of young people. And also, if you look at the last 10 years, where as a country, we had employment and wage freeze. This has created this scenario as a country where we are today. Because if you look at 7 years, 8 years of employment freeze, how many of those teachers were not being able to be employed? How many of those nurses, doctors, agriculturalists were not able to be employed? So we created this artificially in order to perceive as a country to say we are paying back the money that we borrowed. Had the money been used prudently, we would have not been where we are today. It has been a challenge for many young people, indeed, that have acquired different qualifications for them to attend employment, because there was no employing agency. And we are coming from a background where you go to school, you are being taught to say you have to work for the government. You will work for the government. We need to do a different mindset. Historically, President Kaunda, the late, may so rest in peace, he did actually teach our parents, our forefathers, that there were two systems. The Ubuntu system, which incapacitated to say you need to go back to the land. That has not been inculcated in the new generation of today, where young people must be taught on how do they go back to the land. Because if us as young people are able to go back to the land, we are going to create an entrepreneurial kind of environment and be able to become employers of ourselves. But that has not happened. In the recent past, most of the young people want to go to school and be employed because they're looking forward to a pension. But they're forgetting that pensions can be created now when they're able to work for themselves. So we have had this unemployment program that has unemployment rate that has been artificially created by politicians. We have this unemployment being created because there has been no environment, enabling environment for young people, sustainable environment for young people to work. There has been this artificially created unemployment rate in young people because we have been, even the population itself, the population of Zambia has increased. Looking at the meager, I want to use the word meager because we have limited resources now as a country. Looking at our population, so the population has also contributed to unemployment rates. So we need, as a government, we need to find sustainable programs that we are going to see young people to thrive in terms of education, young people to thrive in terms of business, young people to thrive in terms of employment. So we need to create a robust kind of a program where young people are able to have a free choice on what they want to do. So if you look at the unemployment rates in Zambia today, others, it's not that they have not been able, but others, what is attributing to them reaching those numbers, it has been the use, the abuse of alcohol and drugs, which has skyrocketed in our society today. Others, it has been the well-known factor, which is HIV and AIDS, that has ravaged most of the homes, and probably the breadwinners that were sponsoring them to go for education have been unable to go. Thank God to President Hakainde Hichilema, who has introduced the free education policy for young people to attain the desirable education that they actually need. I think these are some of the many challenges that has created the unemployment rate, but mostly where we are today, it has been created artificially by politicians that felt that young people for this particular number of years do not deserve to be employed. I think that is what
Thank you so much, Mr. Hankanga. This time around, I will bring in once more. I've actually seen Mr. Bwalya Nondo. Welcome to the program. Mr. Nondo,
very low.
Your mic is on mute. Okay, are you getting us clearly? Are you
no,
getting
I can't
us?
hear you. The volume is very low.
Even now, you can't hear us.
Not that much.
Okay,
I can't get you clearly.
Turn up the volume of your device. Turn up the volume. Raise it up.
It's on maximum.
It's on maximum. Okay, maybe
Yes,
it's an
yes,
issue
yes.
of the network. We'll see if you can actually...
Maybe, I don't know. Because the network here is it's a bit erratic, so I can't really hear you, but I'm able to see everything.
Okay, stay on, and we'll hope that you will actually get to improve in terms of connectivity there. I'll throw it back to Harry so that you make conclusion on your submission as regards to the reasons why we find ourselves in high employment as it is right now.
Okay.
Come again?
Can I be heard clearly?
Yes, Harry, please go ahead.
Okay, so
I didn't get your question clearly.
Oh, okay, Mr. Nondo, where we are right now, we are addressing the question as to why have we found ourselves in this situation of high employment in Zambia.
Okay.
And right now, we are giving an opportunity to one of the panelists, who is actually Harry Wapatichongo, who is holding the floor. Thereafter, we are going to invite probably yourself or Mr. Gregory Mofu to actually also submit their submissions.
All right, not a problem. I'm able to hear you now clearly.
Beautiful. Mr. Wapatichongo, please take it up.
Okay. So like I was saying that when we look at the previous statement that I raised, where we're coming from as a country, where we had a state which was in control of the key sectors, which are which has got the means of production, and we had more people who were employed during that particular time. Then we transitioned to where we saw the privatization of a lot of state-owned enterprise and state-owned institutions, which were controlling most of the means of production. We saw that the issues of unemployment started to skyrocket during that particular period. And then coming up to these regimes that have come and gone, they have all been talking about how do they respond to issues of unemployment. We have a number of people who are ready to join the labor force. We have a number of people who are educated enough. We have the number of people who have the skills. However, there is no platform that is giving them employment. And why has this happened is because we do not have, the state is not in possession, or the state is not in possession of the means of production. The means of production is being controlled by a simple minority of people, which we normally call the elite, who are controlling the means of production. And them, when it comes to issues of employment, they are not employing quite a large number of people who are supposed to be employed. Then we also need to look at this problem of unemployment. Is not just maybe from a previous regime to this regime. It's about the systemic problem that we have as Africans. So what we have seen is that we give a private end property, especially these sectors that have the means of production that can employ majority of the people, and then they are owned by the private entities, and those private entities, they dodge taxes, which contributes to illicit financial flows. And if you can do your research, economists will tell you that the money that we lose through financial illicit flows is quite high, that can even sustain us to employ more people who are ready to join the labor force. If we see at the rate of unemployment in Zambia, it keeps on increasing, because we do not own the means of production, and the people do not have access to the means of production. So what has led us here is the system that we have set for ourselves. What has led us here, it is the issue of not having the state to take ownership of the key means of production. When the state does that, we know that it's going now to be in the hands of the people, not in the hands of the minority. So those are some of the things that have led us there. And also the issues to do with the system itself. It has deteriorated our education system. The system itself, it has deteriorated the labor system in terms of how they employ, what are the benefits of employment. In the end, you have more people looking for employment, more people who are skilled enough, and they're not having access to employment because the people who are running state resources, or the people who are in possession of the institutions that are the means of production are very few, and they are employing very few people who are not even getting the benefit of being in that particular employment, and which we have seen now, it keeps on continuing. So of course we might employ quite a number of people like the current regime has done, but the fact is that if we do not take ownership, we take control of the means of production, we are not going to combat issues of unemployment amongst the youth, amongst the women, because we know that when we talk of youth unemployment, we know that the significant majority are the young people who are actually affected by this particular trajectory. So there is need, as we are able to discuss further, but what has led us here, these are the few points that I've raised: issues to do with the system, issues to have a lot of state private-owned property, issues to do with lack of better policies that can enforce better labor policies. We do not have that. The deterioration of the education system. These are some of the things that have led us to where we are as a country, and we continue seeing this even progressing if we cannot address these particular issues that I've raised. I'll submit for now.
Thank you so much. We do appreciate. At this point in time, I will invite Mr. Gregory Mofu to also give us, his side as to why have we found ourselves in such an, employment rate or level in Zambia. It appears connectivity is a problem with him. We quickly switch to another panelist, Mr. Bwalya Nondo, as we get to wait for, Gregory Mofu there. Mr. Nondo, are you getting us?
Yes, I can hear you, though I still have a challenge in terms of getting you clearly, but at least I can try.
Okay, so
as
what
you can
we
see,
are
I'm trying to
actually
be as close as possible to my camera so that I can get you.
Oh, yes, indeed. The question is, why have we found ourselves where we are in terms of unemployment levels?
Okay.
What are the causes that have brought us where we are?
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I want to say thank you for inviting me to this, virtual interview or debate. It's important to acknowledge that the issue of high levels of unemployment has a history. It did not start here, neither yesterday. We need to look at where we are coming from. There are several factors that has been, the reason as to why we have so much high levels of unemployment. And one of the things that we need to look at, first of all, is the leadership itself. Because they say everything rise and falls on leadership. The kind of policies that we've had since 1964, when we got independence, has been one of the contributing factors as to why we are in this situation that we are in today in terms of high levels of unemployment, especially for the youth and the women, who are the majority in our population. We need to look at the type of education that we have. We are a nation, or we are a people that have been told to depend on education that will give us employment, not the type of education policy that is going to develop our mind in order for us to be self-sustaining in terms of, being creative and also venture into entrepreneurship. So when you look at the institutions that we have, all our university students who goes to university wants to graduate and find a job. Now, for the past 56 years, all our universities and our colleges have been graduating students that have been going into looking for employment. Yet if you look at the creation of employment itself, has been a challenge. We have very few companies in this country. We have very few industries that will absorb the graduates that graduates every year from these institutions. For instance, if you are graduating 2,000 every year from one institution, and we have several of them, so we are talking about 10,000 plus who are graduating, all of them looking for employment. And you remember that at some point in 1993, when during the MMD of late Dr. Chiluba's time, we underwent through a very, very difficult time when Zambia went through privatization. Most industries closed. The population kept on growing, and yet we did not have the industries, either the companies to employ our people.
It appears we have lost him to connectivity. Do we have Mr. Gregory Mofu ready? It appears he's also struggling, with connectivity there. It appears connectivity has been a challenge. At this point in time, I've seen those that are through here have already, submitted their submissions as to the causes of, high employment in Zambia as it is. At this point in time, I'll throw it to my co-host to take it up with the next, round of question that we can address as we are tackling the question as regards high employment in Zambia and what the way forward is. Lance, over to you.
Thank you so much, Chaza. And of course, a great evening to our panelists once again, as well as also a great evening to our viewers and followers of this debate program. Now, as indicated, we are discussing the high unemployment rate in Zambia and also looking at what is the way forward. Now, we have identified what the problem is, reasons why we have high unemployment rate. Let's get to look at indicators that can take us out of high unemployment rate, especially right here in Zambia. So let's get to go key by key in debating key by key of how we can get out of this high unemployment rate. Each discussant will be given only 5 minutes to express a view, share a concern, tackle through your comment, as well as offer a solution to the problem that we are having. So the first thing that we are looking at that has been raised is an issue to do with industrialization. If Zambia is industrialized, or if Zambia gets industrialized, high unemployment or unemployment can be dealt with. Let me start with you, Mr. Bwalya. Do you really think that industrialization is the way to go if unemployment rate really has to come down? You have 5 minutes.
Hello. Thank you so very much. I think we should not narrow our... Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Excuse me? Hello?
Please go right ahead.
You can go ahead.
Hello? I can't hear any. What's going on?
Please go
Mr.
ahead.
Nondo.
We can hear you. Okay. He has exited the studio. But however, let's get to continue with Mr. Hankanga. Mr. Hankanga, is industrialization an answer or one of the key answers in dealing with high unemployment rate?
Yes. If you look at industrialization and how most of the European countries used industrialization in order to build their economies or to stabilize their economies, it is an answer to one of the many challenges in terms of unemployment of young people. Because if you look at, if we were to industrialize Zambia, we need to single it to a province. What is it that each and every province is able to produce in order to contribute to the national GDP? So we must industrialize not just right in the urban setup of Zambia, but we must be able to industrialize our country going forward into the many provinces. I think we've seen industries being coming up in the northwestern, where there's a fruit factory that has actually been set up. This is one that is actually going to create employment just to the local people, not just employment to the local people, but it will also be able to contribute positively to the national GDP of this country. So we need to industrialize our country in order to open up our economy and be able to export certain goods. And this industrialization also will be able to bring in direct foreign investment into our country. So we are not just creating employment for our young people, but we are also building our economy. We are also strengthening our economy. So we need to come up with programs looking at each and every province. What is it? What sort of goods, what sort of products are these provinces able to produce in order for us to meet up and be able to contribute positively. So we need to create a robust kind of programs that can actually contribute positively. These programs must be sustainable, because we are not just looking at these tantamen kind of industries where today you set up a factory that will be producing peanut butter. Tomorrow the young people want to come back for work, they're not able to work because probably that industry is gone. We don't need to do that. We need to create sustainable industries that will live a lifetime, where young people can actually grow old in those particular industries. Young people should be able to build that confidence that I am waking up, I am going for work. Even us as the local people, we need to have that confidence in that particular industry, because we are the people that are also, we can be small scale farmers, we can be commercial farmers, we can be large scale farmers that will also contribute to the production of those, because some of the goods, some of the raw materials that industry will need will actually be coming to the local people. So we are not just creating employment for the young people, but we are creating employment for the whole country, because this is where the farmers, the inputs, the raw materials will be supplied by the local people. So we are creating employment. So the Europeans did use industrialization in order to develop, of which most of the raw materials that Europeans used were actually brought from Africa. So why can't we as Africans use the process of industrialization in order to develop our country? We have seen a growing trend of these electric cars that have come on the market. We have seen a growing trend in terms of the electric batteries that are needed to be used for these electric cars. Why can't we, if Africa is able to produce the much needed cobalt that is needed for these cars or batteries that are running these cars, why can't we industrialize Zambia cobalt and start producing the batteries and sell a finished product to the Europeans? So this is how we are supposed to start thinking. Because if we were to think outside the box, it must begin with the locals. We must be able to produce an already produced product for us to sell out. So we need that political willpower, the political willpower that will help the young people, that will help our communities, that will help our provinces and our districts in order to work together with the government. So the government plays a critical role when it comes to industrialization, because we are looking at policies that will be favorable or sustainable enough for the young people to contribute positively to this development. So we need that to incapacitate in the young people. And we also need a mindset change. We need to have a mindset change.
Mr. Hankanga, your time is up. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So quickly, Harry, industrialization is one of the key factors to end unemployment in Zambia. What is your take on that? Mr. Hankanga has spoken of sustainability. Let's get to hear your thought.
Yeah, thank you so much. So
Harry, I'm unable to get you.
I'll begin my point. Okay, I think I was dropping due to internet. Can you hear me now?
Okay. Yes, I can.
You can? Okay. So so industrialization is really a very good component in terms of ending unemployment in Zambia. But we have to be very, very categorical and careful when we talk of industrialization. So remember, in my submission, I did indicate and talk about issues of systems. So we shouldn't forget that there are issues to do with neo-colonialism, where we are seeing that most of these institutions that holds the means of production have been run by the elite, the few minority of individuals. Most of them they are foreigners. Not to say that I'm against investments or having investors, but we need to be very specific when we talk of system change. So we need to have policies. If we're going to go into industrialization, we need to have policies that aligns itself with supporting local industries. So the industrialization that will curb unemployment will be an industrialization process that promotes the manufacturing, the local manufacturers, and that supports local solutions that are aligned to industrialization. Because if we are not going to do that, we are going to have the same problem that we have been having. So in the era of technology, industrialization is quite essential. So which means that if we are going to meet that particular target, we need also to see how best we begin now to transform the already colonized education. How do we decolonize our education system so that it matches the current technological system? And also, we need also to begin to invest in research. We have a lot of graduates, we have a lot of great minds who are working in other countries, but we're not taking potential. Then we are waiting for investors who are coming outside to come and established industries in our country, but we are letting go of such brilliant brains that are being exported. So we need to take advantage of such individuals, so much so that backed by research, we are able now to also begin to be leading giants when it comes to technology, leading giants because we have the resources that could catapult us into being such particular giants. So we need such political will for that to really happen. And also, if we are going to use industrialization as a solution, we need an industrialization that is based on the fiscal and monetary policies. So under monetary policies, we are saying that we need a government that is going to create a system that allows local manufacturers to have access to low interest loans, to have access to low interest loans for them to establish their manufacturing industries, their technological equipment, so that they can begin their processes. We need a government that supports fiscal policies. They need fiscal policies in place that gives tax waivers to local manufacturers. What we have seen is that we have seen even foreign minings have been given tax holidays, which is, of course, is part of industrialization, but it's really affecting the majority, and that's why we are having unemployment rate continues to escalate. And lastly, we need to create an enabling environment for manufacturers and those young people who are willing to go into industrialization. For example, there is an engineer who has begun to produce fuel using plastic bottles. We have not seen government taking an initiative to support that individual, but what we have seen is that government is commissioned projects that are being initiated by foreigners, which is not a bad thing, but we need to support local products so as we can run away from depending on foreign ideas, and we depend more on homegrown solutions, because homegrown solutions are the key fundamental issues that are going to help us solve the issues of unemployment in Zambia. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Harry. We really appreciate. Mr. Mofu, are you here with us now? I've noticed that you have unmuted your mic, but we can't get you. All right, as we are working on having Mr. Mofu right here with us, which we really appreciate to hear at least his input on the topic of discussion. Let's get back to Bwalya. Bwalya, industrialization is one of the components to get the high unemployment rate reduced. Let's get to debate this motion.
Okay. Thank you so very much. You know, for a very long time, we've been singing about decentralization, industrialization, and all these nations and whatever we call them, but we don't really get to know and understand what is the biggest problem that we've been facing as a continent and squarely as a nation that is part of a continent that is under capture. I totally concur with the previous speaker when he said we are not in charge of our own things. So we can talk about, we have very good ideas. We have very good and brilliant ideas that can really, address these challenges that we face as a people. But the greatest challenge that we have is that we don't own anything. Time and again, from the time we got independence, we've been having administrations that are under capture by imperialists who are not interested to see us develop at any point. They've actually made it a standard to make sure that Africans, and Zambians in particular, must be permanent dependents. We should be sucking up to them. So each time we stand up to create our own policies, homegrown solutions, they come in one way or the other to come and swat them so that we go back to zero. You remember in my first submission, I said we began to face all these challenges when we experienced privatization, which was never necessary for this country. But it was a strategy for the imperialists to destroy the backbone of our economy so that we remain grounded economically and we depend on them. If you look at what is happening today, we have governments that are so dependent on borrowing. You want to borrow 1.4 billion US dollars, yet you are giving tax, holidays to the so-called investors. 4 point something billion or 7 point something billion. It doesn't make sense. But our governments have their hands tied. They can't do anything because they say at the inception of every organization, there lies the seeds of its destruction. And that's the biggest tragedy of our time. Look, we cannot develop. We cannot even, we cannot even implement industrialization when we have nothing. We do not have any means of production. When we talk of industries, we are talking about machineries that we don't produce. We are talking about so many things that are involved, which we still look up to the very people that do not want us to develop our industries so that we can employ our own people, because they want to provide everything and keep us in slavery. We've tried all these. So the only solution that we must, all of us, put our heads together and realize that we are not free. When we begin to fight for real freedom, we are talking about economical freedom. The day we realize to say we should not allow any foreign forces to come to us, manipulate us and say, no, we're going to, for instance, if you form a political party, you form your political party today, tomorrow there will be unsolicited volunteers that will come to say, no, we want to sponsor you because we want to promote democracy, which they don't believe in. The motive behind is to come and capture you as you begin your political journey, so that when you become president or when your political party forms, you are already captured. And we've experienced that for the last 40 years. Zambia has been just swimming in the same dirty waters. And we can't realize that not until we develop a system, our own system, without depending. We have everything. We have all mineral deposits that any country would need for it to develop. We have the most favorable, condition in terms of weather. You talk of, the agriculture sector, that if properly implemented, it can absorb all the youths that needs employment. But look at where we are. We do not have any political will from our leaders to implement these things, because immediately when they begin to show some positivity in terms of wanting to free themselves and their people, their sponsors comes in and begin to write policies for them and tell them exactly what to do. That's the biggest problem that we have. Until we look at
thank you so much.
all
Your
those
time
factors,
is
we
up.
will be able to talk about industrialization, because even our own state do not have any
Mr.
industry
Bwalya,
that they can point at to say this is our own.
Mr. Bwalya,
The
your
mine
time is
not
up.
ours.
Thank you so much. Your time is up. Thank you so much. Remember, it's only 5 minutes per discussion, as we have to touch on quite a number of solutions that have been proposed, or solutions that have been identified. Now, there is a notion to say that a change in the education curriculum is also key to ending high unemployment rate. Let me start with Mr. Hankanga on this one. Do we need to change our curriculum in the education sector for us to end unemployment?
One of the ways as a country we managed to stabilize the spread of HIV and AIDS was through the change of curriculum, the school curriculum, and we introduced the health segment, and that was HIV and AIDS, which is reproductive health, being learned under education at a tender age. We managed to fight HIV. An introduction, a change of school curriculum in order to include entrepreneurship, in order to include finance, it brings about the desired, needed change in terms of mindset of young people on how they perceive employment, on how they perceive how they can create self-employment, how they can manage their lives in terms of financial discipline. So yes, the change in the school curriculum will bring about the much desired mindset change in people's lives, in the young people's lives, on how they will run their lives. So this change does not just cooperate the different aspects in terms of agriculture as a study under curriculum, but it gives the young people the much desired options that they can actually engage into in order for them to sustain their lives. And if you look at the change that this curriculum is bringing about, it's also bringing in the issues to do with entrepreneurship, which is a key now in the New Dawn government. Under the New Dawn government, we are spreading to the young people that we have decentralized our programs up to the community level, where young people are able to access grants, loans, which are at a cheaper rate with long-term payment plans. So young people are able to access these monies in order for them to get into a formal business, in order for them to become self-reliant, in order for them to come out of the shackles of poverty and being able to provide for themselves and their families. That is what we're talking about in the New Dawn government. We want to see young people that become vibrant.
Point of order. I'm raising a point of order.
Yes, please come in.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Hankanga, hold your thought.
Yes, I think my comrade is contradicting himself, because what is happening today is something else. Just recently, thousands, if not millions, of young people lost employment. Those who were self-employed, those who were running businesses such as mobile money businesses, their businesses were destroyed because this government wants to prove a point that everybody must go to school, get a certificate or a degree or whatever, and come back and be employed. So they can't allow young people to venture into entrepreneurship. My comrade cannot actually come here and lie to say, no, our government is doing this. This government has destroyed the lives of young people. who were fetching for themselves, because they know to say government cannot manage to employ each and everyone. The Minister of Local Government went on rampage just to want to please the 3 head of states who came to, attend the African, AU summit. They went on rampage to destroy. So you cannot tell us to say, no, the government is doing this, which we are not seeing.
It's unfortunate.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Remember, before you come in, Mr. Hankanga, please be reminded that when you raise a point of order, you only have 1 minute to raise your point of order, and then we allow the panelist to come through and obviously answer that point of order. Mr. Hankanga, please go ahead.
I think Mr. Bwalya, he's one person probably who has grown up in a city where it has got no laws, that has got no laws and order. The move by the local government in order for the booth operators was to create sanity. As you are aware that we are moving from season to season, soon we'll be in the rain season. And we all know what happens in the rain season. If we do not manage our hygiene, if we do not manage our surrounding, if we do not manage our sanity, it means that we become prone to communicable diseases like cholera. We become prone to communicable diseases like we have the COVID-19. And you know, as you're aware, that the booths that were placed in town, we have not killed any person's dream, but all we have just asked the people that were operating in town is that, can we operate in designated authorized places, period. So coming back to our program, we are looking at the issue of curriculum change, which is bringing in the much desired change that the young people need. And when you look at this, we are looking at the issues to do with the mindset change of young people to become self-reliant, not dependent on government in terms of employment, but be able to create employment for themselves and for their friends and families. This is what we're talking about. And if you look at the issues, I was talking about the issues of decentralization at a community level, where the government has increased community development fund from 1.6 million, which previously did not cooperate the women and the youths in terms of accessibility to that money. But in the new Don government, this money can easily be accessed by the young people in order for them to create an entrepreneurial life and be able to fend for themselves and their family. That's what we are talking about. We need to ensure that young people register different companies or cooperatives in order for them to access. They must understand
Mr.
the guidance.
Hankanga.
So we are looking at a mindset change. Thank you so
please
much.
wind up on your point. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. So let's get to engage Comrade Harry. Comrade Harry, education, changing the education curriculum is one of the ways to attain, less unemployment rate. Do you agree with the motion?
Well, I think we can say that the change in the education system is very critical, and it's really fundamental in terms of addressing issues of unemployment. But then critically, I think for me, I'll really establish and stick to my ground of saying that there is need for really a system change that will allow, even when we transform the education curriculum, we're going to have an education that will give access for us to earn the means of production. We're going to have an education that is going to give access to the young people, the learners, the students, to have access to productive resources that will allow them to have capital and all that. So the change in the education system will mean that if we are talking of land, which is one of the major means of production, land, we need people having access to land, not just learning about it in schools. We need policies that will allow people to have access to land, and this land must be profitable. So we do not want to see a system where the people who are owning the means of production are a few, and even when we talk in schools, they learn about that, they are not going to have access to that particular land. So as we change the education system, we need to really have conversation around how do we change the whole system that has really crippled us and really failed us as the people. One of the things that I could also love to mention is that both governments that we have had previously, they have been a total betrayal to particularly the dreams of the young people. We have seen them giving a lot of opportunities, especially when it comes to the means of production, to foreigners, to their friends, to old generation, to old people. They are not giving these opportunities to the younger generation. So I cannot really say that the change in the education system alone is going to give us employment. It can, but if we do not address the issues of systemic issues that are causing unemployment, we are not going to address issues of unemployment. We have seen right now, as we are talking about, the previous speaker talked about how government has increased the CDF allocation, but when you look at it from a very critical perspective, you realize that this particular CDF, the people who are getting are those ones who are connected to the system. Young people have been left out, and if you look at it, even now, no one is really directly benefiting. If you look at the terms and the condition of the same loans, they are so little for one to do a project that is calling for industrialization, which we talked about. Even if we are to change the education system, which allows young people to know how to operate these technological things, know how to venture into the manufacturing sector, with a 40,000 kwacha, what kind of technological equipment that they can procure, which is able to guarantee employment for more young people. So we need really to address issues of system change. And in a system change, we need leadership that is driven by a lot of young people who believe that if we change the education curriculum, we are going to have young people having access to these issues that I've talked about. And lastly, we need also to address issues of generational gap when it comes to the education system. Even if we change the curriculum, we say at primary, secondary, we are going to be doing these courses that are practical in nature, which allows you to know about mining, allows you to know about these things. If we do not change the leadership approach towards unemployment, we're not going to see change. What do I mean when I say that? If we have young people who are graduating and they're not being shown the way on where they can go, we're not going to have young people who are going to be employed. Not to say that I'm against the issues of self-employment, but for me, we need a system and a government that is able to be brave enough, bold enough to be able to create an environment for every graduate. If we are changing the education system, to have access to employment, everyone must work, and that's why we have governments in place. So the idea and the way forward, aside from changing the education curriculum, we need to change the system. We need to change the political leadership that we have in Zambia. They have betrayed us enough. Both regimes, the past regime was pathetic. The current regime, they are implementing policies that are not reflecting the ideas of the younger generation. So we need a system change, even as much as we talk about the change in the educational curriculum or the education system that we have for Zambia. So that is rethinking education, but also thinking around the system that continues to curtail the ideas of young people to thrive in order to create employment. I submit.
All right, thank you so much. We do appreciate for your submission. I take it that this round has been exhausted. We can take another round as we get to reckon on the way forward as regards the high unemployment levels. I think one of the critical issues also lies with the legal framework. If we are to have the legal framework get to change so as to have the platform that allows everyone, giving everyone an equal opportunity to be employed, What do I mean by this? Retirement age. We have a retirement age that has been seen to be, on the high side, and as a result, it is jeopardizing the chances of a youth to be employed. Not only that, if one has not, been employed up to the age of 40, has not contributed to NAPSA, they don't stand a chance to be employed, because the NAPSA Act provides that you need to contribute a minimum of 18 months, which is a period of 15 years for you to qualify to a pension. Do you think if we have a legal framework getting to change, we are going to have the way forward and get to reduce unemployment levels in Zambia? Let me start with you, Mr. Bwalya Nondo. Please come through and give us your viewpoints on this one.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Hello?
Yes, we are getting you. Go right ahead and give us your submission.
Okay. I think what we need to look at a bigger picture. The biggest problem that we have is that when we are having these kind of national conversations, most of the time we put on political spectacles. Even when we talk of legal frameworks, the people that we send to parliament, to the lawmakers that we select to go and make laws for our country, first and foremost, they put their own interest before the nation. And that's where the biggest problem is. So what we need is serious or a total overhaul of our systems, not one single system. We are not going to solve a problem by just sorting out one problem. We can have very good laws, but for as long as the other systems are not attended to, we are just wasting our time. We have a lot of issues that we need to deal with that has been an impediment to our progress as a people. And we've ignored all these things, because what really happens, and I think the blame must come back to us, the young people, because we've been praise singers for a long time. We praise the very people that have been putting policies that tramples on our rights. We always want to be behind, and when you see a young person who is not in your team, or who doesn't belong to a political party, or who does not support a political party that you don't support, you don't agree with them, even if they are trying to bring something that you deep down your heart knows to say this is real, you just want to go against. The issue of mindset change, though you didn't give me a chance to submit on the previous questions that you raised, I'll go ahead and submit to say, even if we had to put the most perfect legal framework in this country, we will still have challenges. We are not going to go anywhere until we sort out the issue of our education system, because education is key. The very people that are going to put up that legal system must be educated. Now we have an education system that supports, the development, or the development. We have institutions that are producing functional illiterates, and these are the people that we are entrusting with the leadership of the nation. Just because somebody sat in class to study for a degree, we think maybe they are able to, bring out solutions that are going to, to sort out the challenges that we are facing. We've had, the best brains in terms of leadership at every level of human interaction in this country. The question that we must be asking ourselves always, why is it that we have brilliant presidents in terms of intellect? We have brilliant ministers of finances. We have brilliant, ministers in various ministries. But why do we still struggle with these simple issues? We need to go back to basics. We've been missing a link. So for as long as we can come here and speak platitudes, tell people we have all these ideas, and if we do this, we can. For as long as we don't deal with the major issues, we'll be wasting our time. And our generation is going to pass. The only thing that will leave for our children is speaking good English, telling them about good policies. We give all these promises. For instance, my brother will come here and tell us to say, no, previously we had CDF at 6 million. Today we have it at 25 million. But if you ask him, can you tell us just one constituency in this country that has managed to access even 10 million out of 25 million budget of CDF in the 2021-2022 budget? The only thing that we will see is defense. They'll come to their defense. No, we are trying to do this and this and this. I think we need to move collectively as a people without looking at each other. This one belongs to PF. This one is UPND. This one. This country is for all of us, and we must let ourselves engage in a very genuine conversation so that we can address these issues genuinely. But for as long as we come in to compete against each other, then we are giving a room for imperialists to continue manipulating us, to continue enslaving us. They will actually pick a few out of our own leaders that will be running as funds, and they will be there to defend the enemy, whilst an ordinary citizen doesn't even know what is happening. When you talk of, cleaning up the environment or doing what, when you want to do something, find an alternative. What we are saying is that if those boots were, we are bringing debt in the city, they should have, government should have looked for an alternative. Where do we take our youths when we remove them from here? Those marketeers.
All right, Mr. Nondo, it's time up for you there. Thank you so much. We do appreciate. And I would like to welcome Chembe, who is in the background there. We do appreciate. At this point in time, I'm inviting Mr. Hankanga to come and give us his submission as regards, the legal framework. Do we need to change the legal framework for us to have an environment that supports, employment opportunities for every citizen? Mr. Hankanga.
When you look at, yes, I'm here. When you look at the legal framework, it acts as a guide. It guides the users, the end users, on how they can access certain resources, certain amenities, how they can function as society. So the legal framework is very important when it comes to guidance. We need it for the sake of being guided. I'll give an example of the current accessibility in terms of community development fund. Mr. Nondo was saying I should state just one example of a constituency that has fully accessed this money. I want to give one, Kanchibia constituency, under Honorable Sunday Chanda, who is a patriotic member of parliament, who has received and has appreciated government's role in terms of this money. When you look at the legal framework, it helps us to be guided on
how much did you disperse to Kanchivia?
I wanted to know 13.6 million.
Sorry?
13.6 million kwacha was dispersed
out of 25 out of 25 million. Out of 25 million.
Out of 25 million. Out of 25 million.
Mr. Hankanga.
We have a month to go.
Mr. Hankanga, Mr. Nondo. I would like you to raise your point of order. You are given a minute to do so. and we give chance to the pre-current speaker to actually respond to that. I give you that chance, Mr. Nondo, please, and exhaust your point of order.
My comrade, my area of interest was going. I wanted to know out of 20, because you were saying the CDF has been increased from 6 million to 25 million, and we are in the last month of exhausting the 2021-2022 budget. Out of 25 million that you are bragging about, only one constituency has managed to reach 13.5 million. What will happen to the remaining balance? So this is what we want to know. And many people are concerned, is it going to make a difference where you increase on paper and practically nothing is happening? There's no money actually. Out of 25 million, you give 13 million. That's our area of concern. We want to know exactly what is happening with the other balance. When are these constituencies going to receive the full amount that is budgeted for in terms of CDF? I rest my case.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hankanga. Please do attend to that point.
It's a pity that Mr. Nondo is trying to put a blind eye to the current trending affairs of our nation. And I don't want to derail much in terms of the CDF, but I want to look at the issues to do with policy and how policy helps us to govern, how policy helps us to guide on the different implementations, especially when it comes to the disbursement of funds. Most of the constituencies currently in Zambia have received half, meaning that the first and the second quarters of this particular year have been dispersed. This community development fund is dispersed quarterly. Each quarter receives its fund. And I think as a country, we have 4 quarters. I don't know how many quarters Mr. Nondo has, but according to my calendar, we have 4 quarters. So in our 4 quarters, meaning that the disbursement of these funds will be done in each and every single quarter. So the 13.5 million that Kanchibia has received is for the first and second quarter. So when you look at the issues to do with policy, we need policy because it acts as a guide. It guides us in terms of what can be our limit. How low can we go in terms of certain programs, in terms of disbursement of funds, or in the implementation of programs. So policy is very important and is cardinal. And as a country, we cannot run away because policy also helps the policy makers, who are the parliamentarians, to understand the successes and the failures that they have actually encountered in the Sorry?
Please, Mr.
I think I'm being distracted by Mr. Nondo.
Proceed, you are still on the floor.
So policy also helps. Policy helps the government to do the checks and balances in terms of also their successes and their failures, in terms of different implementation when it comes to governmental programs. So policy is cardinal. It's highly cardinal because at the end of the day, without policy, it will mean that there'll be just chintobe and tobe. I think we saw this in the other previous government where we saw implementation of programs that were done haphazardly. And hence, what did we see? We have seen quite a high rate of unemployment today in the young people because there was no policy. We have seen today high rate of crime because of young people that were not employed then in the last 7 years. Today, they're criminals. So we want to work with policy because policy acts as a guide. And as a new dawn government, we will not wake up and just say, this is what we are going to do. But we want to work with policy. And as you have seen in the decentralization program that we are currently embarked on as a government, we are embarking on policy. Because all the programs that the Community Development Fund that is currently receiving have to be approved. Are they sustainable enough? We are looking at continuity, we are looking at sustainability, we are looking at community involvement and engagement, where the community themselves become drivers of their own programs. Once the community have become the drivers of their own program, it means that the community will be able in an event that that program fails, the community will be able to quickly evaluate their successes and their failures and move forward. That will help the community to understand the challenges better.
Mr. Hankanga, your time is up on this submission. Thank you so much. I'll now invite Mr. Wapatichongo to actually, give us his submission as regards, the legal framework. Do we need to change the legal framework for us to actually have, equal opportunity or an environment, enabling environment for employment in Zambia? Harry, are you there?
Yes.
Please do come through.
Okay, so when we talk of the legal framework, we are basically talking about what does the law play when it comes to employment. That's where we are talking about the acts of parliaments that have been that are enacted in parliament to be able to regulate when it comes to issues of employment. Now we talk of labor laws that we have a country. We talk of laws that allows for private-public partnerships. We talk of laws that talks of social protection around people are involved in civil service and those who are working with the government. So how does a legal framework affects or contributes to combating the high unemployment rate that we have been discussing this particular night? So first thing first, we need a legal framework that is non-biased. We need a legal framework that gives institutional strength to institutions like the Anti-Corruption Commission, because when we empower such institutions, we make them autonomous, we are going to see that they are able to recoup certain resources that go through illicit financial flows, which in most cases these illicit financial flows are facilitated and largely necessitated by the people, the so-called leaders that we have. And for me, I'm not even being which leadership, if it's the UPND or the PF, these governments have been waste in regards to ensuring that they provide employment to the young people. So we need such kind of laws, and we need laws that are able to regulate and determine how much are we really contracting in terms of date. What is the participation of the people? So that will mean that we need to change certain laws, and that will only happen if we have a very flexible legal framework that allows the participation of the people, so that they can also air out their views in terms of what kind of laws that we're having. I also talk about a legal framework that is also looking at issues to do with mining tax regimes. Right now we are talking of tax holidays. Previous governments, we are talking of tax evasions through these multinational companies. So we need now a legal framework that looks into the affairs of the local people to say that if we are going to implement this particular law, let's talk of taxes. How much are the investors going to be remitting to our country? And that those remitters, how can they help boost in terms of creating employment for those ones who are ready to enter into the labor force? And also the other thing that I can also talk about when it comes to, I've indicated that we need the participation of the people to be able to drive this particular legal framework. If it's not driven by the people, we're going to see a few majority of individuals who are with a lot of interest. These sellouts who are going to sign acts of parliaments that are benefiting and profiting them at the expense of the majority Zambian people. So we need a flexible legal framework that allows the participation of the Zambian people, more particularly the young people who are the majority in this country. So in closing, if we talk of the legal framework, again, I'll take you back to issues to do with, we need a drastic change in terms of the system of governance that we have, because if we cannot change the systems of governance, then we're not going to have the better legal framework that we can have that is going to empower certain institutions with autonomous certain institutions so that they can call upon those who have gone into tax evasion using state resources, those who are facilitating illicit financial flows using state portfolios, those who are conniving with investors in giving them license to operate in Zambia, whilst disadvantaging the locals in terms of the requirement or the procedures needed for them to acquire licenses and operate in Zambia in their own country. Those people need to be curtailed using a flexible legal framework that has given autonomous to other wings of government that we have. Among them, I've talked about the anti-corruption.
Right, Harry, it's time up for you. Thank you so much. We do appreciate. At this point in time, we will actually get to wrap up. And before we close, I would like to give each one of you 1 minute just to summarize, your submissions or your viewpoint on, the topic of the day, high unemployment in Zambia. What is the way forward? I'll start with you, Mr. Nondo, then come to Mr. I will then come to Mr. Hankanga and finally get to close with Harry in that order. Let me have you, Mr. Nondo, please. 1 minute, each one of you. Your mic is off.
Hello? Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You can go right ahead now.
Okay. Thank you very much. I hope you're going to add my minute. The issue of unemployment is not a political party's issue. This is a national issue, and we can only sort out this issue if we come together as a people without looking at each other from a political, affiliation. If Bwalya Nondo brings out a solution and you look at it and say, no, this is a PF solution, we are not going anywhere. We need to work together. Secondly, we need to make sure that institutions are respected. Let's not begin to use political positions or portfolios to disadvantage the locals, because in our leaders, the current leadership thinks an investor must be fallen and white. So if I have a 5 kwacha and invest in a business, for instance, a mobile money business, that is not an investment to them. They want to see an investor who is going to come and sponsor them so that they can actually open mines and begin to steal from the locals, disadvantage the locals. We need to redefine who an investor is, because what we believe is that, or what we've been told is that an investor must come from somewhere and he has to be white. So if Bwalya Nondo has some money, he cannot be called an investor. Tomorrow they will come and break or destroy your business and protect foreigners. So we need to have systems that are going to put citizens first before anybody else. This country is our country. Let's allow ourselves.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Nondo. Your minute and a half is over. Thank you so much. Let's quickly go to Mr. Hankanga. Mr. Hankanga, please. You have 1.5 minutes, just like Mr. Nondo.
Thank you so much. I think in my wrap-up message, I want to urge the young people, especially the youths, that let's take opportunity. Let's take this opportunity that the new Dawn government has put across in terms of young people, in order for them to actually become self-reliant. That is by accessing and following the guidelines in terms of community development fund, because this money for community development fund is meant for Zambians. It's meant for us. And us as young people, we must change our mindset when it actually comes to employment, on how we perceive who we should work for. We can create our own employment. That is by creating ourselves to be our own bosses. So I want to urge young people out there that please let us seize this opportunity that the new Don government has put across, that let's be able to understand, let us be able to consult, and let us be able to work with the current government in order for us to access the different fundings for different youth programs that are there. We should actually come out from this cocoon of us always wanting to drink, always wanting to abuse drugs and alcohol, but let us make our times more productive and contribute to the nation's development of Zambia. We will see a better Zambia if we ourselves change begins with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hankanga. We do appreciate it. And finally, let's have 1.5 minutes with Mr. Wapatichongo Harry.
Okay, thank you so much. In closing, before we could even talk about young people having entrepreneurial ideas, having entrepreneurship mindset, we need to talk about the system, the neo-colonialism that we have seen in terms of the running of the productive sectors of our country, and of course, our economy that has also led to high levels of unemployment in our country. We need to have a bold governments that are going to expropriate some of these private-owned properties into state-owned property that are going to give mass opportunities of jobs to the young people. We need a government that is going to put across fiscal policies that allows that do not give tax holidays to foreign entities, these multinational companies, and then disadvantage the local individuals. We need also to have a government that pushes for monetary policies that also gives loans at a lower interest rate, but also loans that are able to support industrialization, not just mere loans of 10,000, 40,000 kwacha. That one will not save us in any way. And lastly, we need to decolonize our system of learning. We need to decolonize our system of participation into the economic sector. And more importantly, we need to acknowledge the young people as the key in shaping youth unemployment rate. I submit.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, this is debate time on Ubuntu channel. And tonight we were looking at high unemployment in Zambia. What is the way forward? And on the panel tonight we had Mr. Omiya Hankanga of the UPND, Mr. Harry Wapatichongo, a political and social activist, and not forgetting Mr. Bwalya Mr. Bwalya Nondo, who is actually from the PF, and we were supposed to be joined by Gregory Mofu, a government activist who failed to make it. Panelists, you've been so fortifying with your submissions. We greatly appreciate, and we do look forward to even hosting you right here on different, programs, including debate time. We greatly appreciate. We are profoundly humbled, and it's been an interesting debate all because of you. Thank you so much, and we do appreciate even the viewers, the listeners of Ubuntu channel debate time. We greatly appreciate. Due to time, we are saying God bless you all. Until next time, debate time is over. I've been Chaza right here, your host, and I had my co-host Lance, who's been so nice also. Thank you so much. God bless you all.
Thank you.